everybody. Welcome back to Champ and Sons and a brand new series here that we are going to be starting in City Skylines 2 in a more or less vanilla. I don't really think I have many mods going at this point, but it's going to be pretty much a vanilla city that we are going to get started. All the stuff from our last one was on my old computer. I switched a while back, and I'm just now able to get back into building a new one. So we are going to go normal mode with this city. I do like the Coral Riches map just because it offers a lot of different natural resources from farming, tree cutting, or oil. It offers pretty much just about everything for us. So we are going to go with that map. Now, sticking back to how we used to do it, this is going to be Averageton Town. Instead of a county like before, this is going to be more town, like one whole city, right? You're going to have some separate, broken off rural areas, some more suburban areas, heavily built up downtown type things. But it is going to be one city and one kind of layout. And so here we are getting into the map, and we're going to take a look at some of these resources that we have after. Obviously, hate having these extra power lines in there. I'm going to try to not use the power lines as much as possible. Maybe once we get the stuff spread out, then we'll start bringing in those kind of power sources and that type of power line. So looking at the natural resources, like I said, it is abundant. They are everywhere throughout here. Before, this first little farmland right in front of us kind of would work, but we're not going to put any farms kind of there. This whole section up here is going to be more of essentially the rural kind of area. That's where we're going to have most of our farming kind of occur, is up in this segment. So you'll see a lot of the main city on this side of the water body of water. And then we have our industry, a lot of different ore, coal, oil that pushes back in this direction. And I believe the wind also goes in that direction. So it's kind of more fitting to fold the industry back in that area. I'm not so sure if I'm going to do cargo shipping as of yet. I haven't really fully decided that. I want to see kind of how the layout around the water that has the exit points kind of builds up. I may not go cargo shipping, may just go regular kind of port for like cruise terminal, that kind of thing, right? So here's what I wanted to do that's been a little different. I'm going to extend the 4-lane road. I'm going to have more of these heavy traffic kind of roads, because one thing that's always become a problem for me is essentially the amount of traffic that we have. And so I'm going to build off some of these 4-lane roads coming off here. And it's going to look pretty boxy to kind of start. Once we get into developing the city, we'll start to see the angles take shape. And so forth like that. And the grids, we are going to have kind of a more basic type of grid. I'm going to try to break it up and not have it be so so standard, I guess. And you'll kind of see that as we get into building the layout of the opening of the city. So I am just going to run one of these 4-lane roads right along here. I think it works out pretty well. I've toyed around and maybe making this a beach access kind of area, but I'm just not feeling that as we go into this build. So I'm going to put these 4-lane roads, and whenever we start to get a lot of dual use buildings, that's where these I think will come into play pretty heavily, is along this side of the road. I don't want a lot of actual buildings on my 4-lane roads, because those I want to be primarily for travel to get from one place to the other. We will have some connections because you kind of have to, but it's not going to be a bunch of them just coming right off of these 4-lane roads. I'm trying to limit that as we go in there. So now that we got a pretty basic road layout, I need to get going down towards our more industrial section. That's where we're going to start seeing the connections for electricity and so forth be built up. So we're going to just come off this one in a little T section. 90 degrees, meeting up with each other right there. And then here in this layout, this little forested section right here works pretty good for the forest industry. Now, once we chop through all those trees, since it takes so long to grow stuff back, Yeah, I could do the kind of the cheating route. You know, you remove the forest industry, just hammer down, spam down some big ass trees, and then put it back in. I don't know if I'm going to do that as of yet. Let's be real, but right now we're just going to leave it as is, and we'll start a little forestry industry there. And then I am putting in power. I'm going with the smaller ones. Like I said, I don't want to jump straight into coal power plant and so forth. I know as the city gets bigger, we're going to have to probably expand out into that, into some other kind of power source outside of the wind generated. It's just natural to have to do that, I think, with some of the sizes of these cities. But I want to start out with it as natural as possible, not connect to an outside power source. So here I'm just mapping out where I'm going to end up putting my forestry industry, coming right off this main road right there. And it'll kind of cover up this whole like section, essentially where most of those trees are. Everything on the inside of these roads will eventually be built in with some other industrial. And I'm also looking at, using, there's going to be recycling centers, garbage centers, all that stuff that we're going to need. So I'm going to look to use that land in this middle for that kind of purpose as we build along here. So now for water, I like the classic water tower. Once again, I know we're going to have to change it to a water pumping station, whether I go with a groundwater pumping station, so forth. I am going to eventually put in the water treatment plants and all that, so we don't have to worry about having all this water run off into the water, or all the shit water run off into the clean water there. But that's going to be on down the road, right? This city is very early on in the process, so it's not something that is going to have these things kind of immediately, because I didn't want to unlock it. This is, like I said, it's a normal process, so things will unlock. The city will progress in a normal type of progression, type of setup. So I'm just going to start getting some of this stuff gridded in here. For the industrial, I wanted it to not be too large, right? I don't want to have already got tiny village. Okay. I don't want to have it to be just like a massive, I guess grid essentially. I kind of like how it is more set out. Provides smaller industrial buildings so you don't get smokestack upon smokestack constantly. I think it kind of works out for us, and I think it works out better for the city in the long run. It really does. So where am I going to start? And this is essentially going to end up being like a neighborhood of a city, right? So with what we're given, I'm going to start in the center as much as I can. So that's 936 long. See, how wide are you? You are 976 wide. So figure about the midpoint for each one. Let's go ahead and try to get that located right off here. So this is where it gets kind of wonky with. Gonna have to do some math to figure it out. And it's trying to figure it out. It was like, hold on, 936. So half of that, you're looking at, what is that? 468. Well, you don't get 468. You get 464 or 472. So we're going to go with as close as we can. Now coming off here, it's going to be, once again, this is pretty much going to be the center point for the most part. 488. Boom. All right. So this is where our center square of this neighborhood is going to be located. When I say square, if you've grown up in a small town, at least in Texas, most small towns have like a city square essentially. That's what this is going to be. So you're going to have a lot of the commercials starting up just on the outside of the square, be more open space on the inside of it and so forth like that. So we are going to get this, split it on each side. So this is going to be 128 wide. 128, yeah, 128 on each side. So we're going to be good to go. Then we're going to build the grid off of this. Now we're about to jump into a little speeded up version of things. We're gonna get the city gridded out. We're gonna start doing some zoning. I am gonna let y'all listen to the tunes a little bit more clearly, and I'll be back on with y'all here in just a wee bit as the city really starts to come up, and as we get things kind of developed. And like I said, you're gonna see our, I'm gonna say, non-traditional kind of grid. But we're gonna really make this thing kind of fit what our city needs and so forth like that. So I'm looking forward to it, guys. Definitely enjoy the tunes. I'll be back on with y'all here in just a little while. as we hit the Grand Village stage. And one of the biggest parts of this stage that we get is the parks, right? That's what I've been saving up for, is to really fill out these kind of the school grounds for the most part. They're not going to be completely finished at this stage because I do want to put things like parking lots in there for them and so forth like that. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind kind of as we go. So what we are working on at this point is putting in the playground for the elementary school. And then I've got the football field for the high school stadium. Once again, if you lived in Texas, you understand they may not be as big as this, but they get, some of these damn stadiums get pretty hefty size. I'll say that much. I'll say that. So we get the road kind of connection. I don't mind that little S turn right there. I think that'd be good for slowing traffic down around a school. In all reality, but I do try to fill in as much as I can with some of the alleyways, right? So I started thinking, I've tried looking at road hierarchy in a certain sense of where I want cars to travel versus where I want residences and stuff to be located, and how easy I want them to be able to park on the side of the road and so forth like that. So you'll see, obviously, in some of these larger, essentially grids, broken up a little bit with the alleyway, the two-direction alleyway that has no sidewalk on it. I think that works out pretty well. It fits in pretty good with the aesthetic of stuff, to really kind of get some of the standard grids broken up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of what we were thinking on this front. So we are filling in the spots, and I don't want to just completely, I guess you could say, chase the zoning needs, but I do want to continue to see people come into the city and stuff, so forth. So now I know with the parks, if you got them, you should use them, right? So we are going to start putting parks in, and that's actually going to help out the attractiveness of the city and get people to come into it. So it works out pretty well. I like these larger parks. I think they look really good. They fit in a lot of these more open areas. It's good to kind of break up some of the tight, even low density housing and so forth. It can seem kind of hefty on up there, right? It just can feel that way. So I do like kind of having that available to kind of break that up. So we're gonna still get some of the people put down. Like I said, we got the parking lots is really one of the only things remaining at this stage I want to get before I finish off the education zone. And really, when I say education zones, just the layouts of those schools and so forth. So we are going to do some detailing as we go throughout, right? This is not going to be some massive detailed kind of city where, you see me putting in my own billboards and stuff. I just don't do that. I don't have the patience for it. You'd think maybe I did because I play a game like Planet Coast or something, but no, I do not. I don't have that. And so I'll tell you this, for low density, I just go with the regular low density. I don't choose a certain setting or whatever kind of low density or anything like that. I just go with the standard in-game low density. When you get into the medium density realm, I do really like to use the southwestern style one, because they're not that big, right? They have some size, but they're not that big overall. Talk about detailing, here we go into some of that. So the row homes, the biggest one you're going to get is essentially a 3x1 with the southwest or 1x3, however you want to say it. And I think that fits perfectly. It's not too large, it doesn't stick out too much. And then same thing with kind of the apartment complexes that comes with those medium density apartments, is they seem to work a whole hell of a lot better. I would say at least using the southwest version of them, and I just like how they look overall. So here in all these little park zones, I'm going to edge it with some bushes or trees. Generally going to be bushes. I like to fill in the blank spots on the inside with trees. But every time we put these in, the walking path, I just really kind of just build it to connect from side to side to make sure that each side has a kind of connection. And and then fill in the blank spaces, at least with an oak tree than any other kind of tree. I do find it funny that the little fountains, at one point I thought they were so massive, but now they look pretty small compared to everything else that's in there. But we do have that filling up. And you see we're just at 4, we're just at the Grand Village. We are getting close to the halfway mark to the 5th realm, which that's what we're going to need to work on parking lots and so forth like that. But outside of that, it's going to be let's just add in some basic residential. And you'll see on a lot of the traveling roads, I like to put in the, not commerce, what the hell do they call it here? Commercial. I like to put in the commercial. I think it's good to set up some travel lines. Really, in shopping areas, essentially designated shopping stuff. You will see me start to sporadically put some of that commercial stuff more around the neighborhoods outside of the main kind of pathways on the street heading in and out of the center of town. Mainly just because I think each neighborhood kind of area is going to have some form of commercial around it. I mean, it always has been. Maybe not, it's not always like a shopping center kind of thing. It's more just a set of stores and one little kind of half a block kind of segment. So sometimes it does go that way. And here, like I said, I wanted to really kind of get some of these gaps filled in. And you can see how clustered it kind of is. But one thing I really like is that we're not seeing a whole lot of traffic slowdowns at this time. You know, there's not a whole lot of roads crossing, not a whole lot of stopping points. So I think we've done a pretty good job here with preventing any kind of really bad traffic from happening. And that's been a big thing for us in getting these roads built out. Now, I did decide an extra connection was needed here, so you know what? A couple people's homes have got to go. That's just the way of the world, man. That is just how it works. You know, sometimes eminent domain gets claimed and houses get taken. That's just the way things go. And I had talked about, and I still haven't fully decided yet. I do think that at some point we are probably going to maybe slide industry onto this side of the highway. But for now, I am keeping it kind of succumb to that corner and expanding it out from that corner. Because once again, there's natural resources everywhere. So you see we did have the main 2-lane road, but now on the inside we're putting in some of these alleyways. I think that works perfectly, once again, to fill in some of the zoning, but also just gives it a more natural feel, you know, and that's what I'm most proud of in this one. Now, milestone 5, this is our mixed housing, our district policies and so forth like that. My biggest thing is I needed advanced road services because we are going to eventually have to start dealing with stoplights. I know that for a fact. But then comes parking lots. And this is what I really needed to finish out some of these kind of areas here is we need the parking lots and then we can finish setting up the school segment. So that's kind of what we roll with. And we're going to get the parking lots laid in at the high school. So one for the football field. And then also down here for just the regular school parking. Elementary school, they're getting themselves some parking too. I think everybody deserves a little bit of parking here and there, you know. The box doesn't really fit for all the best type of parking lot. So we are going to fill it in with these couple ones. And as long as, depending on what we can fit in, that's going to be kind of what you see as far as the parking goes. Now, every time we set up these segments, I will sit here and try to make them look nicer. We're going to always do detailing. So this whole block essentially is for the elementary school. It's not for any other kind of zoning or housing. It's just elementary school zoning. That's all we got for it. Now here I like to just take the surfaces that come with some of this stuff, just so that way it's easier to match over. And I think it makes it look a little bit more seamless on the flow. And so here it is, boom. Here comes in my favorite plant. Favorite little bush coming in. Yeah, and I really like how these things turn out. I think they do turn out pretty well for us. Now we're going to get to work on the high school over here. And as we do this, guys, I do just want to remind y'all, to hit the subscribe button if you have not hit it already. And if you are enjoying this video, definitely give us a thumbs up. If you have any suggestions for what you'd like to see in the city, definitely put that down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Any of y'all's thoughts that y'all have on it as well. So here we are, just finishing up some of the basic detailing. And I don't want concrete to be everywhere, so we're going to kind of put it where I think it makes the most sense, you know. Grass texture is going to come down here. That's going to be filled in. Let's get rid of these trees. We're going to put in our walking path, followed by these little bushes, which I decided to go out of order on. Yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. I can't get the path to meet up to the school. I probably honestly need anarchy or something like that. So we're just going to kind of route stuff around. It's going to look a little wonky. You know, I know that. I expect it, but that's okay. Just the way it works on this one. All right, so we are going to get finished up with this. Coming up here, we're going to have some more, I guess, cinematic shots of the city as it stands here today at the end of this episode. And then we are going to just kind of get set up for the next episode, where we're going to try to see about putting in bus lines. We're going to see about putting in other transportation. We're going to be looking at trains. It's time to start looking at those. Maybe we need to add some trains in. I don't know about adding them in for people, but if anything, at least the cargo. We're also going to add to our industrial area by putting in a mine. Or I guess not mine. It's not the best word for it, but it's really what it is. So we're going to get metal ore. We're going to get coal, all that stuff going. And all that's going to be in the next episode as our schools are filling up fairly quickly, guys. So we're going to hit this more little cinematic views. And guys, I'm going to see y'all in the next episode, so definitely stay tuned for the remainder of these views. As always, guys, stay safe. And I mean, I think most of y'all at this stage know how it goes from here, right? Later, y'all, and enjoy.